On the topic of de-dollarization, and maybe that's a good next subject to jump to. Yes, I look at the bridges being formed between China, Russia, and the global south, or you could say the global majority. I think it's 70% of the world's population are in these countries that you referenced. China's been very effective at building bridges all throughout the Muslim world and in now through South America. The west coast of South America just got their first deep water port. It wasn't American financed. It was Chinese financed, 50 miles north of Lima. Game changer for South American shipping routes. And these deals are being done all over the world. Infrastructure deals, usually in exchange for access to natural resources. There's always strings attached, but the point is you're getting deals done. You're getting bridges built, ports built, all of the stuff. What do you grab onto when it comes to the topic of de-dollarization, the conversation of de-dollarization, moving from a unipolar world to a multipolar world, whatever that might look like? What do you grab onto that's material, Alistair, versus like probably just noise and not worth paying attention to?
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of noise around it. One thing we do see is the People's Bank of China is selling dollars. People say that they're buying gold. No, they're not. They're selling dollars. I mean, you've got to get it the right way around. They're actually trying to reduce their dollars. So that is undoubtedly the first sign of this, if you like, the first real sign of it happening. But then we've got the BRICS summit in Kazan, I think it's called, in October, towards the end of October. And in that summit, there is said to be a debate about a new trade settlement currency. Everybody's got terribly excited because a couple of guys came up with this idea of a new currency called the unit, which is backed by blockchain and all the rest of it. Now, one of them is a Russian and the other is a Chinese guy. And you'd sort of think that, okay, there's a Russian and a Chinese expert. You know, they've been appointed by the government to look at this. No, they haven't. One's a fund manager for Arkhangelsk investments or something in Russia. And the other is a fund manager in the Far East. So, and computer expert. So, you know, he's got the blockchain, if you like it. I mean, it's not going to work. It's just absolutely crazy. And they quite clearly do not understand how credit works. I mean, money doesn't circulate. By money, I mean gold. It doesn't circulate. But the point about it is that you have a standard which guarantees the value of a currency, of the credit and all the dependent credit. That is how a proper gold standard works. This idea that you can put together 40% gold and a whole range of other currencies which are purely fiat but value the thing on a day-to-day sort of gold equivalent. I mean, it's just a complete bloody nonsense. It's as simple as that. So this is a debate which I think will be increasingly highlighted in the next couple of months ahead of the BRICS summit. Whether something actually appears on the summit about this or not, I really don't know. My take on it is it's actually extremely easy to introduce a gold-backed, let's say, a gold substitute currency for trade settlement purposes. You could do it tomorrow. It really is not difficult.
Quick break here, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Copernico Metals. Now, regular viewers of my channel will be familiar with the entrepreneur behind Copernico. His name is Ivan Bebek. Now, although a young man in this business, Ivan's already created tremendous value for his shareholders in the past, namely with Caden Resources, which he sold to Agnico Eagle, and Keegan Resources, which became a mine now owned by Galliano Gold. Now, Ivan has surrounded himself with expertise from BHP, Newmont, and Barrick on his board at Copernico Metals. Check out copernicometals.com. Now back to the interview.
I think more importantly, Russia would benefit hugely from going on to a gold standard. I mean, her economy would need very little adjustment because government spending isn't all that high. Okay, it's been increased because of the war against NATO in the Ukraine, but it's still. I mean, their debt to GDP, in spite of all that spending, is still only 22%, and income tax in Russia, you're looking at a flat rate of 13 to 15%. What's not to like about that? Yet their interest rates, I mean, the reference rate for the Bank of Russia is 18%. The reason for this is that nobody has confidence in the currency. Who would want to buy rubles? Fiat rubles. I mean, I might like the numbers in the economy, but I don't think I'd want to buy fiat rubles. So you can see that the thing that is missing is the guarantee of the value of the ruble. If you can do that, then interest rates will decline, and you have an economy which doesn't demand huge, great consumer spending being financed by bank credit or whatever. It's basically an economy which can grow on production, and it's got all the characteristics of a really good 19th century economy. So that's the way they should go. And I think if Russia does it, then you'll find that the Saudis will do it quite quickly. Because they're in a similar situation. I mean, they're selling oil for all these rubbish currencies. Do they really want them? No. They're being very polite about it, as everybody is, but nobody wants, sort of Egyptian pounds or Iranian rials or Indian rupees. They're all rubbish, and rupiahs from Indonesia. I mean, these are not good currencies. And, once you've got them, what do you do with them? There's nothing you can do with them. So a gold standard, I think, is actually the answer, a proper gold standard. And the merit of it is that you could introduce a gold standard without having to have the agreement, unanimous agreement of the BRICS members. You just say to them, look, the facility is here if you want it. You don't have to agree to it. If you don't want it, don't take it. It's very simple. So why aren't they doing it? The reason they're not doing it, Jay, is that the moment they go on to a gold standard, a credible gold standard, they will destroy the fiat currency world, including, guess what, the dollar. And I don't think the Chinese in particular want to be associated with a deliberate act that destroys the dollar. They would rather protect themselves from a collapse in the dollar by whatever means, which obviously will involve going on to some sort of gold standard. But once it is completely obvious that they've got to protect themselves and it's not their fault. So we're at this transition, and I think it's very important to understand this. Part of what you're talking about, the demise of the American hegemony power, is the currency. The currency is going to collapse because of the debt crisis. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we'll almost certainly get a crisis in terms of the valuation of financial assets, because if you're going to get a collapsing dollar, then you're going to get rising interest rates. I mean, I know that they're talking about interest rates falling and all the rest of it, but that is not going to be a long-lasting thing. They are going to fall very slightly, perhaps because the political landscape demands it. And the Fed is under enormous pressure. When you see signs of a recession arriving, what do? You reduce interest rates. But in fact, inflation isn't going away. It'll be coming back. The purchasing power of the dollar will decline. Interest rates will have to rise. And then what happens? I mean, you can see the whole thing beginning to fall apart. I don't think we've got very long before that happens. So these are difficult times. They really are, particularly for America and also Britain.